My name is Michael D'Souza. I'm the Director of Product Management here at Process Street. I'm super excited to give you a closer look at our latest addition to the Process Street platform, Pages. Now, Pages is our free for everyone home for your team's documentation and SOPs. It gives your entire organization a place to capture and to share your critical process knowledge. We're going to dive in here in a moment, but first I want to talk a little bit about what led us to build a document creation companion to our workflow engine. Let's start by looking at the evolution of a process, something we call the operational knowledge lifecycle. It isn't always a linear path from idea to something actionable. Often, there are several steps along the way, and typically you end up looping back through those earlier steps in order to iterate on the process and to implement feedback. Each feedback loop creates more value to the business as the process evolves. That really comes down to 4 stages of the operational knowledge lifecycle. It's ideate, document, distribute, and run. Ideate, stage 1. At the outset, operational knowledge and processes start as ideas, usually based on experience and observation. Likely it's largely based on how you currently do things. Maybe there's a hypothesis of a better way. Which brings us to stage 2, document. I bet you've heard this one before. We need to get this written down. Because until you do, knowledge is just trapped in people's heads. You're doing things inconsistently, you're making mistakes, getting new people up to speed is time consuming and comes with a big learning curve. This can make growth a real challenge. This documentation problem is core to what we're taking on with Pages. We even have customers that got so far out ahead of us with so much demand for a solution here that they started building their pages or documenting their process knowledge within using our workflow builder. Some have plans to work those docs to create a workflow, to evolve them as they go, while others just want a place to store them apart from the noise in their other tools. Which brings us to stage 3, distribute. This is an obvious step. Why bother documenting anything if you're not going to give access to those that need it? So teams share their docs far and wide using a wiki or knowledge base. But that's where the problem quickly becomes all that established team knowledge just gets lumped together with everything else that we're writing down. And these days we're all writing down a lot. Project plans, meeting notes, half-baked brainstorm sessions. So the information in these wikis quickly becomes lost and outdated. People don't know where to look for the official policies or the SOP knowledge. It gets harder to separate the official documentation from all that noise. And as the business grows, this problem keeps compounding and getting worse over time. And we've seen what happens next. The eventual throwing up of hands, just saying, F it, I'll just do it my own way. Time is wasted reinventing or recreating processes that already exist, perpetuating inefficiency and chaos. And that brings us to, if you make it through that, stage 4, to run. Well, the process becomes, or this is where the process becomes actionable and automated, and following the process knowledge is woven into the actual work being done. This has been our traditional sweet spot with workflows, when the process has absolutely to get done right, quickly, and with a high degree of confidence each and every time. That's where transforming your static documentation into actionable workflows adds so much value. So getting to stage 4 is an ideal state for any process, but it's hard to make that leap when operational knowledge is stuck in people's heads and a knowledge base are spread out across a dozen other productivity tools. Now, a lot of apps will specialize in different stages here. Maybe they're good at 1 or 2 of these areas, but with Process Street, we see Process Street as the only platform committed to the full process lifecycle. And that is what Pages represents for us. It's more than just a feature. It's the next stage for Process Street, from a powerful workflow tool to a modern process management platform capable of supporting the entire life cycle. So let's take a look at how that works. So here's one example that most companies can relate to, a PTO policy. This company obviously needs information like this documented and distributed to the whole team. In this instance, it's currently a PDF living on a shared drive, which HR typically takes the action to email that out to each new employee on their first week. But that becomes a problem over time because people aren't going to necessarily be able to find that over and over again if they need to. And probably it's going to get lost either on the shared drive amongst everything else that's going on there, or maybe not even able to locate that original email. So we want to be able to pull this over into a page and create that policy and securely share it with the entire team. Most importantly, it's going to be on the platform that the team knows to check first for company policies. So let's go ahead and get that started. I'm going to initially just load that onto the clipboard and navigate over into Process Street. So those of you that are already users of Process Street, this is a very familiar screen. This is the library. So you can choose to create and organize this however you'd like. In this instance, we've taken the approach of having a folder per team. And because this is a PTO policy, we're going to put this in the Human Resources folder. Now, you'll notice that there are new elements here if you're familiar with Process Street. And what you're seeing is the combined view of having both pages and workflows together. So what that means is you can capture your team's policies, SOPs, and best practices right alongside those actionable workflows. So let's go ahead and get started doing just that. So first thing I'm going to do is create a new page from the menu in the upper left-hand corner here. And I'm going to give it a title. Oops. If I could type. There. And now I want to paste in all of that content from the HR policy. Boom, easy. So the way that I pasted this in was without formatting, and I want to show you just a little bit of what you can accomplish in Pages. So by highlighting text, we bring up this menu. In this menu, you can choose to create a header, or you can format text with bold, italic, underline, strike through. You can also change the color of the text itself, as well as give it a background color. And if you choose, you can also create a link. So for us, we're just gonna do some quick updating here and put a couple headers in. And I also wanna call out something that I think is pretty important, that eligible employees are awarded PTO on January 1st. So I'm gonna highlight that here, and boom, there we go. I'm not going to go too much further for the purposes of the demo, but you quickly see this is easy to use. It's very familiar with text editing. You also notice as I'm hovering over each of the text blocks, you have a couple buttons that pop up. I'm going to call attention to a couple of them here. So the first is the drag handle, which means I can just quickly reorder content if I needed to by dropping it into a different place. Oops, it helps if I actually give it a spot to drop. There we go. And next is this plus button. This is going to allow you to create new block types, content blocks. So you can either add new text, an image, or file attachment. In this case, I'm going to put an image here because I want to jazz up our PTO policy, which I've already got selected. Let that upload. Awesome. So you can add a little caption, happy people take vacations. Oops. And if I could spell, that would be even better. Great. And I'm going to put that right at the very top. There we go. Awesome. Now that I'm happy with the page, I can go ahead and move to publish it, making it available to the entire team. Fantastic. So here we are, we've got our page all set up, and I want to share that out. So by clicking on the share button, And looking at the permissions tab here, you can see that all members have view access to this, which makes sense as that's inherited from the human resources folder permissions. And you'd want to make sure that your entire team has at least read permissions to a document like this. Whereas in this instance, the HR group, human resources group, has edit permissions, which makes sense as well. If I wanted to invite a collaborator on this, I can go ahead and add somebody from the team and just give them edit permissions, and they would be able to edit this single page here. Additionally to that, we have the share link. This is a great way for you to be able to publish this document and then share it out with the team. There are two options here. You can either choose that only organization members can view this page, which in this instance makes sense as this is an internal facing document. But if you want to, you can create pages that you can share more broadly outside of your organization by choosing the option that anyone with the link can share the page. I'm going to copy that link here and take another quick look at our page. So all the formatting is all set in place. We've got it available to the team sitting in the human resources folder. But I think there's something else that we can do here. Let's take that one step further. I'm going to go back into editing the page and zoom to the bottom. What you have at the bottom of this document is submitting a PTO request. This is just the instructions simply to email your manager and provide this information. Well, that's not something that we're going to be able to track and do consistently. So we want to make that into, of course, a workflow. So I'm going to save these changes. And I'm going to go back out into the human resources folder. So now we have our PTO policy sitting here. Now, if you're like me, you like to organize things into folders. And in this instance, you want to put those things together. And I like to have the folder be the name of the action to be taken. So I'm going to move this PTO policy that we've created into our folder in human resources called request time off. So I'm going to move that and I'm going to pop in here. And now you can see I've already gone ahead and created a new workflow called PTO request. If I open this up and look at it, it has all of the same criteria that were laid out in this document, only now by running a workflow, I can ensure that there are consistent results and that each and every person is following the instructions exactly. But in this workflow, you want to make sure that there's access to that policy itself. If somebody is coming in here, they're requesting time off, they've got questions about what the policy actually is, you want to give them a quick link over, which we're going to do right now. So in this first step, I'm just going to add please refer to our policy. And I'm just going to make that a link right over here. Put in the URL that I had just copied from that share link. And best practice, I'm going to have that open in new window. And everything looks good. I'm going to save these changes. And it's going to ask me, do I want to update a workflow run as well? So right now I already have one employee going through and completing their PTO request workflow run. And in this instance, I absolutely do want to make sure that that particular run is updated. But in some instances, I may want to do that one by one, depending on the state of that workflow. So I'm going to update that. It'll do its magic. And that brings us back to our workflow view. You can see that the PTO policy link has been added so that anytime somebody comes in here and starts a time off request, if they have questions, they can link over to the PTO policy and have those questions answered. Now, I want to take this another step further and complete the loop. So I'm going to open our share menu here and click into our run link tab. Now, a run link, as the name suggests, if clicked, starts the process immediately for whomever has clicked that link. And of course, you can have permissions set so that only organizational members can use that link, or if you so choose, anyone with the link can run the workflow. And that includes those outside your organization. So I'm going to copy this link here and get out of this menu and go back to our request time off folder and into our PTO policy. Now I'm going to choose to edit. Great, so here we are. And now what I want to do is edit this document so that I can add in the process. So run process. And I want to make that a link, paste in our run link, and best practice again, open in a new window. There you have it. I want to make that a little bit more obvious. And I think also best practices, I'm going to copy that and put it down at the bottom of our document as well. So if somebody's read through the process, it's accessible at either the top or the bottom. And publish. Perfect. We've got our PTO policy all set up. We've copied the original content out of that PDF, getting it off the shared drive, and created a page for it where it now lives in Process Street, where the team knows to go looking for process and process documentation. We've even taken a section of this PTO policy and created a workflow with it. From that workflow, we now have a workflow run added to the PTO policy where anybody reviewing this document can quickly and easily start that time off request just like so. So what we've built here really is an MVP process. We extracted some content, some step-by-step instructions that were part of the PTO policy and created a workflow around them. And for those of you that are just getting started with Process Street, I recommend that you do the same. It's really more important that you get started seeing the value and realizing the value of having workflows living alongside pages than it is to perfect your content and the workflows right away. Over time, you'll iterate and improve, and you'll progress through the stages of the operational lifecycle that I was talking about earlier. And once your process is matured, you can begin to take advantage of some of our more powerful features, such as conditional logic, that makes the content of a workflow dynamic by changing based on inputs earlier in earlier tasks, or automations that allow you to extend functionality or data of a workflow into other tools. It's easy to get started. All you need are the process docs that you likely already have. You can start building and sharing pages right away. Soon after that, you'll be graduating your processes into actionable workflows too. On top of that, we've made it even easier to get started on all of this. Let me hop out of the demo and tell you a little bit more about that. So you might have heard me say this earlier, but it's worth repeating. We've made pages completely free across all plans. We really aren't putting any limits on this. No matter how big or small your company, you can invite as many people as you want to read or create pages. Their access will never expire. Now, as we've made all of these changes, free options for using workflows was another thing that we wanted to take a hard look at. We knew that there was a lot of potential in helping people get started using the Process Street platform, and Pages represents a big move there. But we also wanted to make it easier for teams to get started learning and utilizing workflows early. So we've moved away from feature limits for workflows on the free plan. That means automation, conditional logic, and everything else workflows have to offer is now available completely free. So instead of limiting access to certain features, we have a pure usage-based model. In other words, we don't want you paying us until we're sure your team is getting significant value from the product. Right now, those usage limits are up to 5 workflows, 5 active workflow runs, and 5 full team members. If you progress over any of these limits, you'll see a prompt either telling you to use the product less, which we hope you don't, or to upgrade, which we hope you do. We think these limitations are representative of a team that's moved beyond just kicking the tires or learning workflows and is actively seeing some value out of it where it makes sense to upgrade. Now, before I wrap up today, I want to talk a little bit about what's coming up. Because as excited as we are about these announcements today, we feel like we're only just getting started, scratching the surface with the true potential of Pages and Workflows together. Now, you can probably guess at some of the direction we might take here, certainly hinted at it today. And of course, I can't make any promises yet, but here are a few areas that we believe if we make an investment in can have a huge impact for our customers. The first is improving the connection between Pages and Workflows. This is a callback to the operational knowledge lifecycle and taking something from that idea all the way through to making it actionable. We think we can make a big impact here because we know that designing complex workflows from scratch can be time consuming. We're excited about improving this process by finding ways to help content in Pages seamlessly graduate into workflows. Improving the visibility into how operational knowledge is actually being used. We should all be asking a lot more about our reference materials. It's hard to know what's up to date, what's canonical info in the company, if people are getting value out of your content, if people are following your guidance or just glancing at it and forgetting it. There's a lot that can be improved here, and it's definitely an area we're interested in. And last but not least, making use of work that's already been done. I mean, why rewrite an entire process, or frankly, process components, if somebody else is doing something similar already? Just copy their workflow, make a few tweaks. This is an area that we're really excited about. It's something that we've spent some time on and something we really want to build a lot more around, making a robust GitHub for processes. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks for your time. I hope I helped you see ways that you can improve how your entire organization runs by using Process Street as the central hub for all operational knowledge. My ask today is that you dive into these features, try them for yourself. Also, I'd love to hear feedback. If there's anything about the products or anything that you heard today that you want to share your thoughts on, that would mean a ton. You can reach me directly at michael@process.st. And thanks again. Take care.
That was awesome. Super exciting. And thank you everybody for all your comments and conversation that we've got going on. While Michael was sharing about Pages, behind the scene, we did a little raffle of all of those of you who have been participating in the conversation. So Pauline, I'll let you share the results there. Drum roll.
Bob Hackett from Philly. You are the winner of this raffle. We are giving you a choice of either a 1-hour strategy call with the Process Pro, might be me, and take your choice, or you can pick some Process Street merch, up to you. So you can email support@process.st, let them know that you won the raffle, take your pick, and we'll go from there. Congrats, Bob.
Congrats, Bob. And yeah, everybody else keep participating, and you might just have some merch or VIP session headed your way. So we're going to be talking next about automations. We won't get into a big introduction about it because our colleague Blake Bailey will introduce Wade Foster, the founder of and CEO of Zapier. But while we're preparing for that, we'd love to just chat automations. And also if you have thoughts about Pages as well and how you see yourself using Pages. But yeah, so tell us in the chat there, how are you imagining using Pages for your company? And what also, how do you imagine using automations, or what's one of your favorite automations that you already have in place? Or what questions do you have about automations? Let's talk automations.
And while we're waiting for people to chime in, what's your favorite automation that you've ever seen, built, or just, yeah?
What is my favorite automation? You know, I think the one that I'm partial to is when it involves signing contracts and when it involves filing documents, because I feel like that's just one of those things where things can get lost in email threads. You know, you've got, it's like people are emailing files back and forth, and then you have to download the file and upload the file. Or even if you're using Process Street and the file upload widget, and people are uploading the file straight into Process Street. I just love that with a click of a button, you can have basically Zapier take that file, go look in Google Drive, for example, to see if there's a folder that already exists. If there isn't already a folder that already exists, it just makes the folder. It names the file according to a nice structured naming convention and puts it in there. And I just love that those are those little things that errors get made, or everyone has a kind of their own naming convention, even when they're supposed to follow it. And that just happens automatically with one click of a button. That's probably it's pretty simple, but super, super useful.
Pretty mind-blowing. Yeah, I'm gonna go with just like the DocuSign integration or a PandaDoc integration, only because I have talked to so many people. Someone told me 5 hours a week is what they save with those automations, having an easy DocuSign go out to their client or their tenant with a click of a button. So I'm gonna go with the DocuSign integration.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, just typing. I was going to say like typing an address or, you know, something like that. Like, let's just forget about typing, but even copy pasting, right? Like, yeah, copy pasting is so 2005.
All right, let's see. I think some people have chimed in their favorite automations. Marie loves using Zapier. Awesome. And let's see. Angelica says automated purchasing requests, shipping requests, contracts, billing. Love it. And then Stuart, yeah, got to check out that DocuSign integration. We have built-in Process Street.
Paula just had a little light bulb moment. Did you just say automations can change file names? Yes.
Mind-blowing.
Yes, you're welcome. Just kidding. But Paula, tell us how you see that changing things. Also, we've got a few minutes here, and I just need to take this moment to put the rumors to rest. People say Zapier and some people say Zapier. And the big question is, how do you pronounce this fabulous word that starts with a Z?
Rhymes with happier.
Yeah, go for it.
What I heard. I think it rhymes with happier.
Zapier makes you happier. Read between the lines. Zapier. So anyway, now you guys know. You're in on the truth. Yes, Paula, you're welcome. Yes, James, Zapier makes you happier. This is right. So if anybody asks, if anybody says Zapier, just say, what is that? Zapier makes you happier. Yeah, any other automations that you're looking forward to creating or that you're wondering if they're possible, feel free to pop those in the chat. And then again, just in about a minute here, we're going to get exactly, Ben. We send zaps, not zapes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Any life-changing automations? Any automations that have saved anybody else time, energy, stress?
Automating documents. So yeah, you can automate, you know, like we talked about filing documents, you can automate the creation of documents where, like, let's say you've got a template and then you've got this templated document, and then you have all the data automatically fill in that document. Adam says using Typeform submissions to start a new process in Process Street. Totally.
I heard that one. That's cool.
Like you grab information on your website, people fill out a form on your website, and then automatically kicks off a workflow in Process Street, and you're off to the races. So we've got about a minute before we bring on our colleague Blake Bailey, who is going to be introducing Wade Foster, the founder and CEO of Zapier, and Vinay as well will be joining this conversation. So we will get that queued up right now.